A huge thank you to Robert Bishop for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Marneus Calgar versus Ayula, Oher Axonil, and Dihada. We are on a go slow there, but we can ramp a little bit and fix our colours, so maybe let the other players point their removal at each other. Draw Secure the Wastes on turn 1, we'll get down the tap land Myriad Landscape, probably only cracking that on turn 3. Sensei's Divining Top on turn 1 for the bear player, and it is playing bear tribal seemingly, as you would expect with the Ayula. Fanatical Offering, we have to sacrifice an artifact or a creature with that, so irrelevant at the moment. Might as well take advantage of the tap land, our ability to play the tap land, save ourselves a couple of life. Impact Tremors, whenever a creature enters under your control, 1 damage to each opponent, entering under the control of Axonil of course. And not spinning Sensei's Divining Top, instead aiming for Lightning Greaves ready for the commander and a spin next turn maybe. Okay, a Bitter Blossom. Are we best getting down Bitter Blossom now? Or do we go for a double spell next turn? We could go for sacrificing the token with this to try and keep ourselves in lands. I think we will go for that. Decided to go for 2 swamps with the Myriad Landscape. You can only pick 1 basic land type. Thinking that if we want to be playing Bitter Blossom and Fanatical Offering in 1 turn, then it's best to have a lot of black. If we get into white, by some miracle, we might get down the commander instead. Dihada just holding up 3 mana. Brimstone Trebuchet. Defender Reach, tap 1 damage to each opponent. 1 damage to each opponent from the Impact Tremors. Ayula into play, and Lightning Greaves will likely go straight onto there. Or not, giving us a chance to respond. Could have responded to the equip anyway, but spinning Sensei's Divining Top first. Alright, so we're going to get some white mana, we are, with the Arcane Signet, so that is a decent double spell. Fix our colours and, well, we're not ramping, are we, because we're not making a land here. So we'll get down the Bitter Blossom as well. Ambition's Cost from the 3 colour player. Draw 3, lose 3. Immolation Shaman. And a Mind Stone for the burn player. 3 cards left in hand. And tapping down the Trebuchet now. Could have held that back as a blocker. Can they only do this? Yeah, they can do that whenever they want. So could have held it back as a blocker and done it at the end of Dihada's turn. Werebear is the first bear to come down after Ayula. And 2+ counters going onto that from the commander. It is noteworthy that they can't target their own commander while it has Shroud, so can't buff up the Ayula with the plus counters. Ulvenwald Bear after that. Does tap down for mana thanks to the Lightning Greaves, which is now back on the commander, and it puts 2+ counters on something if a creature died this turn, but obviously it didn't. And Ayula goes in towards the burn player, got the Immolation Shaman out of the way when the morbid creature entered, so yeah, target bear fought that out of the way. 3-3 versus a 1-3. Anyway, Bitter Blossom is our first trigger. Alright, and some white mana, exactly what we needed, so we'll get some Azorius mana there. And do we go for a Tricycle land here? I was thinking if we don't get into a land, we could have gone Shurikai. If our opponent hadn't played a 3rd creature, and we got into a land, I was thinking Liliana tick down, but there'll be a creature left to take her out after that, so I think it is the Tricycle land here, and then we'll go for the Shurikai anyway. And then we should do this activation at the end of the green player's turn, but I don't want to hold up priority just in case someone points spot removal at that, so let's go for draw 2, discard 1. I like the land. I like everything in hand really. Let's get rid of the Fanatical Offering there. And we make ourselves a pilot token as well. So, gonna expect a lot of work to be done with Shurikai. This is a really good commander in and of its own right here, but I've never really played with it, even in the 99, so looking forward to getting some good use out of it with our commander. Mentioned it in a previous video, not sure if you've seen that already or not, but Marneus Calgar is a difficult one because Esper's difficult to ramp with. And you want to be getting the commander out and then making tokens with it straight away, really. It's not often that it'll last a turn cycle, I don't think. So if we can get at least 1 or 2 tokens out with it, then it's cantripped for us at least. Dihada coming into play. 7 cards in our opponent's hand. And it's a minus. Reveal the top 4 cards of the library, any number of legendaries from among them into your hand, the rest in the bin, and you get treasures for the ones that go in the bin. Threw a Junji, ironically, and an Odric into the bin, so has 3 mana available with 9 cards in hand. Decided on Gimli of the Glittering Caves, double strike 1/1. And when it deals combat damage to a player, get a treasure token, it can get plus counters on it as well. Discarded Carmen to hand size as well, so loading up the graveyard with legendaries. And then another Gimli, counter of kills this time. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, 1 damage to that creature's controller, and that triggers the impact tremors, so yeah, just cautiously waiting on the commander to enter play. Alright, and that player decides to scoop. Welcome to Magic Online, and welcome to the block list. Alright, so let's go for the Isolated Chapel. Drew into a land this turn. That has just unlocked the Liliana for us, I think. Although we would want to get rid of the Dehada. Yeah, if we hold off on our commander for another turn, we'll be able to go for our commander into Bastion of Remembrance. Or if we like the Secure the Wastes as well. Yeah, we can go Shurikai again this way, so let's go in at Dehada. And then Liliana, Dreadhorde General. So we've got 5 cards in hand at the moment. We're about to kill off 2 of our creatures, which means we'll draw a couple of cards. Each player sacks 2 creatures. We'll keep hold of an untapped Fairy Rogue token. Don't particularly care about crewing the Shurikai. So Gimli, counter of kills, will deal 1 damage to each creature's controller when a creature died. And Lily going to cantrip us for those tokens as well. Alright, got into a new battle. Haven't played around with the battles too much either. But I'm hoping that we're going to get lots of tokens into play and then be able to do Convoke stuff. And Grave Pact is always incredible with token builds as well. So wait until our opponent's turn and then we'll activate Shurikai then so that we don't have to... I was going to say discard down to hand size. I'm forgetting about the Reliquary Tower. We can threaten 1 mana interaction. Chainer Nightmare Adept is able to reanimate stuff. +2 on that is Vigilance, Lifelink and Indestructible onto the Chainer, as well as adding loyalty to the Dehada to keep it in play for longer. Sulfuric Vortex is a really good one. Not sure how much life gain we've got in here, I don't think we do have any, but it'll be consistent damage being dealt to us. So let's activate the Shurikai before our turn starts. Draw 2, discard 1, just get rid of the basic, should be fine I think. So we lose 3 life at the beginning of every upkeep now, which is a good way to die quickly. And Elspeth, Sun's Champion, cannot get rid of that Chainer. It has Indestructible and its power isn't big enough anyway. Windswept Heath for more white and blue mana. Don't particularly want to shock anything in though. Oh, we didn't go for the Tundra previously, so that's easy. And then I think it can finally be the Marneus Calgar. I cannot make the name of that commander stick. Always have to look at what it's called. So then we can go for a token with Lily. Got an unlimited hand size here, so doesn't necessarily matter how many cards we draw. It is noteworthy that when 1 or more tokens enter, we'll only draw 1 card, so we don't draw 3 from the tick up on Elspeth. Let's see here, do we want to hold up the Otawara? We could bounce the Chainer and then go after Dehada, but that'll have to be over the next turn cycle. I think Bastion of Remembrance into play is going to be a good idea. Hurts our opponents for going for the board wipes onto us. And when that enters, it comes in with a token, so that will cantrip with the commander as well. And draws us into a training ground, so that'll make the ability on this cost 2 less, making it cost 4, meaning it can combo off with Ashnod's Altar and the Bastion of Remembrance. And I've had a rough time getting games in with this commander today, as well as all my other commanders actually, so I'm not above going for a combo like that. Swinging at Dehada with the flyer, and we will pass the turn at that I think. And we do have Clever Concealment held up because we've got a couple of white creatures available to us, so we need to make sure not to pass priority. I think Chainer just discarded the Queen Marquesa, so he's able to cast something from the bin here. Maybe he's just going for some kind of reanimation. Deciding to cast Junji, and this is a death trigger, so yeah, can't do anything with that just yet. Does get a 5/5 flyer in the way though, and it will gain haste. Then Dehada giving that Indestructible, Vigilance and Lifelink, so it might as well swing in here. It's a 3-2 going into the right and trying to go after the commander with Junji, or go after Liliana I should say. Luckily we have our Fairy Rogue tokens. We'll still be able to hold up the Clever Concealment. Oh, does this have Menace? Gonna get rid of the Liliana then, didn't realise it had Menace. Yep, but I think Liliana did some decent work for us there. Did I tick that up on the last turn? No, it would have gone down anyway. Yeah, I think I did. I ticked it down, then ticked it up across 2 turns. Pyrohemia, gonna make my opponent put mana into that. That will do a lot of damage to our board. So we're going to be forced to use a Cyclonic Rift at this point. Activating that forces us to go for the Clever Concealment. And we can pay for this with just creatures, so getting rid or phasing out all of the non-land permanents here. Safe to phase everything out, I think. I suppose I could have phased out the Liliana, but I didn't want to use the Clever Concealment unless I needed to. I'd rather dodge board wipes. Obviously someone isn't going to cast a board wipe while our stuff is already phased out. Okay, so 2 damage from the Vortex again. And a token enters from the Bitter Blossom, so we'll draw a card. That is another Azorius land. And 2 shock lands in a row. So what are we doing here? We've only got 2 mana left after we go for a Cyclonic Rift. But I'm not liking all the damage we're being dealt here, and Pyrohemia is really going to hurt us next turn. So I think we have to go for it, as annoying as it is. Do I do it at instant speed and be really annoying? No, I think I'll just do it now and play it at least sort of fair. And this way we can start swinging in over at Dihada, who I am more concerned about, to be honest. A Path to Exile goes on to our commander, so can't make any tokens in response apart from with Shurikai. Do we want to do that? Suppose we can do that. Might as well draw some more. Really glad of the Reliquary Tower at the moment. Was hoping to get through with that because it's 6 commander damage we could land there. More mana for us. Let's just discard a shock land and then a token pilot entered, so we draw again with the commander. And alright, Sword of the Animist is nice, especially in an Esper deck. We don't have too many of our basics yet, but we're about to get one with the Path to Exile. Don't have too many basics. We're going to have 4 available, but that means 4 attacks with Sword of the Animist, so should be plenty, although we can get another fetch, another basic out with the Wayfarer's Bauble. Commander goes into the command zone. Cyclonic Rift still happens, although we're not dealing anywhere near as much damage now. So let's go Verdant Catacombs for another untapped land. We might as well get out the Wayfarer's Bauble, I suppose. And if it gets blown up, then so be it. So I'll turn everything in at Dihada, and that will be 6 damage, I think. Magic Online wants to wake up. Dihada back into play again. Only costs 4 mana thanks to it being in hand. Revealing the top 4 cards, trying to make some treasures again. Unfortunately, I think the red player is going to be able to get down a land next turn, go Pyrohemia and blow up all the 1 toughness creatures, which is pretty much a board wipe. We've seen a Ruinous Blast get discarded here. Blackgate, Ashling, Vault of Champions. Anyway, they've got 4 treasures. Chainer coming back into play. Alright, not getting down Pyrohemia, Mind Stone coming into play. So just deciding on getting down the Sulfuric Vortex again. We get to keep our tokens in play, so maybe it's worth getting down the Grave Pact to punish a Pyrohemia. Alright, down to the halfway point thanks to Bitter Blossom and the Sulfuric Vortex. Alright, and there we see a sack outlet, so what do we need to do here then? It's Ashnod's Altar we needed as a sack outlet, wasn't it? Could we get down our commander? Would that help us? And then we'd have 4 mana available, get down Spawning Pit and this for just 2 mana. And then we can punish our opponents for wiping the board. We can get rid of Dihada here, assuming that they don't have removal, so I'm going to shock down the Hallowed Fountain against my better judgment. Although I'm really not sure if we've got life gain in the deck anyway, like I said. Spawning Pit. Dihada is holding up priority, so could have removal. Maybe going after the commander again. Anguished Unmaking onto the... Alright, the Bastion of Remembrance. Before the sack outlet comes in, we're about to get another one with the Meat Hook Massacre, so that was always the plan anyway. I was just trying to double up on the amount of triggers we'd get. Noteworthy we can't gain life because of this thing, but we can still peck away at our opponents. So yeah, we'll go for that, where X is 0. So then we'll take all of the fairies in at Dihada. Don't think we need to dedicate that many actually, do we, now that they've tapped out? So those two get rid of Dihada. This doesn't have First Striker Indestructible or anything, so we'll turn in over there with the zombie as well. It's just a case of dodging all the interaction from our opponents really, because we're slowly being chipped away at by the burn player while we're trying to get rid of Dihada. So managed to take out the commander. And we can crew the Shurikai as an A8 blocker if we want to as well. So our opponents will have to watch out for that. But I don't think they're going to swing into a 3-power double striker anyway. Dihada should cost 8 mana now, I think. Although, no, it's only been sent to the command zone once, hasn't it? It's been bounced back to hand. That's when they recast it. So 6 mana for that. Urza's Ruinous Blast is exile all non-land permanents that are not legendary. So here is where we just have to sacrifice all of our tokens then. It gets rid of the Sulfuric Vortex at least. We will keep hold of the Meat Hut Massacre, which is funny. So sacrifice everything apart from our commander, because that will survive this. Each opponent going to lose a life every time we do this, and we'll get counters onto the spawning pit to make more tokens. And that'll obviously be more card draw if we keep our commander in play. Suppose I could have gone for crewing this before allowing the board wipe to go off and before sacrificing all this stuff, but that's just easier for it to be removed with Swords to Plowshares or something. I don't think it matters. Our opponent's going to have to be really careful if he swings in towards us anyway, because we could get him on the swing back. I think I mentioned making tokens with this just previously now as well, and obviously it's going to get taken down by the Ruinous Blast. But you can see what this sap thing can do. It would have 8 counters on it, so we put 8 mana into it, make 8 spawn tokens, and draw 8 cards because they're individual instances of tokens. So Spawning Pit, a really good one. Don't think this has seen a reprint ever actually, for some reason, but it's one of the better sack outlets you can run. Alright, so everything gets wiped out. Chainer is going to cast a creature from the graveyard after discarding the Junji again. Ashling Pilgrim into play, and that does have haste, but I imagine it's just being used as a blocker. A War Room being played by the red player has never managed to get in the commander, unfortunately. This is the problem with this deck. It either goes off like crazy or you never even get to cast your commander. It's been a pretty heavy interactive game and pretty heavy with regards to removal and stuff. But he's still in it and still has things to do apparently. Replaying the Impact Tremors. A Braid going to take out the Shurikai now, which has done a hell of a lot of work this game, which is what I was expecting of it, so can't really complain. But we've got plenty of cards in hand. An Ashnod's Altar right off the top would be good. Alright, Tevesh Sat, that'll do. Yeah, it's a real shame losing that sack outlet. What to do here? We could go 4 mana into Grave Pact and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, so 5 or 6 tokens with this. And then they can swing in towards us and we can make some blocks and force them to sack their creatures. Let's go for the Grave Pact first of all. We could go Otawara, that'll cost us 3 mana to bounce this out of the way. And then they have to, well, they don't have to block with Chainer, but probably a good idea too. This thing probably goes down to Junji next turn, although it'll be at 6 loyalty, so maybe not. And we'll swing in, see what happens. Go into the left, try and get rid of this Mardu player. Ashling chump blocking as we expected it to, so we will gain our first point of life from the Meat Hut Massacre. And then we could go for one of 2 Planeswalkers. We could go for Invasion of Segovia, and then some more mana into Secure the Wastes. Or do we just tap out into Secure the Wastes here? I think that's the play, and then it helps resist board wipes. Our opponent can still go after the enchantment that you put a red into it, 1 damage to everything. I've already forgotten the name of it. Pyrohemia, I think it's called. Don't crash magic. Right, so we can put 6 into X on Secure the Wastes and maybe get our opponent if he swings in with the Chainer. Discarding a Brass's Tunnel Grinder, legendary artifact, able to cast a creature from the bin. And it's Gimli that he's gone after, so wants a double striker available. Maybe wants to make some more treasure tokens. We can double block on Gimli, assuming that we manage to get all these tokens into play. So that does come in with haste thanks to Chainer. And swinging in over there, so he's fully expecting us to have something. So a token being created on the first strike, and then he'll get another one, of course, because this damage is going through. So we get to dodge the Pyrohemia now, because our opponent, I mean, he could still play it and hold up the red, but he has no reason to on board at the moment. A Thundering Raiju is a 3/3 with haste. When it attacks, put a plus counter on it for each creature you control. Then it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control. Thankfully, our opponent isn't doing too well on the creature front, unfortunately. Deals 1 damage to us with the impact tremors, which makes it easier to get rid of this player, hopefully. So we'll see who he swings in at. Probably comes in at us. And yep, so we'll just chump block that with 1 creature. That will get rid of this. Could maybe chump block with 2 creatures, actually, to get rid of these 2 with the Grave Pact. So let this resolve. So this player goes down to 6. And we put 6 mana in to secure the wastes, which is bad news with a Grave Pact in play. Dehada could have removal for something though. Okay, going after the Meat Hut Massacre, so not going to be able to ping him to death with that, but we will be able to make use of the Grave Pact, assuming there's no more removal. We get an Elephant token, which does trigger our commander for a card draw. And speaking of tokens, there's Adeline. So we'll be able to draw another card with that next turn if we want to. All these tokens enter, we draw 1 card. And there's our land for the next turn. So we'll block this with 2 creatures. And that means that we'll get 2 Grave Pact triggers on the stack. And that means each opponent has to sacrifice 2 creatures, which is a one-sided board wipe effectively. So there we go, both of those on the stack. And get rid of these 2. And I think I'm going to play around the fact that our opponent could have more removal and just dedicate everything over here. Yeah, it can be 6 damage from the commander and then 6 damage from tokens. There is a Lord Skitter, Sewer Kings, so just maximising the amount of card draw we're going to get here. Definitely get down the Adeline, because that doesn't have to swing in order to trigger. And I won't bother with the Sewer King just in case the red player has some means of a board wipe, Blasphemous Act or something like that. So it's 6 damage here, and then a further 6 damage from the tokens. Just really overextending so that we can try and help along the fact that we're definitely going to get rid of that player. 1 damage over here as well. Oh, and I didn't account for Adeline actually. We could have taken 1 token fewer in at this player and sent it over at the red player. I don't think it's going to matter. So we get 1 token per player from the Adeline, but only trigger the Calgar once for 1 card draw. And yeah, really getting into all the token producers here. No removal from Dehada, so didn't necessarily need to overextend, but maybe they didn't use the removal in hand because it wouldn't have done anything. Got the red player down to 20 and he's still really struggling on mana. Let's get down the Tevesh Sat. And I think we can risk sacrificing a creature here because we've got the Adeline in play and hopefully our commander by next turn. So we'll just sacrifice a human token. There we draw into Deadly Dispute, which means we can sacrifice a creature at instant speed, which will be good against the anything that they could get down, really. We'll get down Sword of the Animist, and then we're just holding up the Deadly Dispute so that we can trigger the Grave Pact if we want to, but it's looking like a foregone conclusion at this point. Do appreciate the red player playing it out. He's had a rough game here. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, is going to be able to do 4 damage to something. Probably the Adeline. Instead just adding some red mana. Maybe trying to distract us with that and buy another turn. No, that is a Chaos Warp. Yeah, we could go Deadly Dispute onto that, but let's see what we get into. It's probably just a land, it usually is. Be funny if it was something... Wow, I was about to say Elesh Norn. Yeah, the luck continues in this game. We've had really good luck. And I wish I'd got my words out quickly enough there, because I was genuinely thinking it'd be funny if we got the Elesh Norn into play. So Chaos Warp doing a rare upgrade for us, and I won't bother going Deadly Dispute. We'll put our opponent out of his misery here, go straight through to combat. I do appreciate him playing it out. So we get into a D-Spark that could have dealt with that anyway. The good luck further continues. Go in at our opponent for a whole heap of damage. That is actually 5 first strike damage and then another 5 commander. And there we are, down to -14 and 10 commander damage. I think we had our opponent there anyway, so he shouldn't feel too bad about it. He had really bad luck with the mana there. But yeah, my second time trying this one, and I like it about as much as I thought I was going to. Marneus Calgar, really fun commander. To be honest, I'd rather be playing a non-Warhammer 40k version of it. A real Magic the Gathering version of it would be nice, but I'm sure we'll get that in the fullness of time. Or actually probably not, the way that Wizards are doing things nowadays. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to consider supporting on Patreon through the link in the description below if you would like, and a big thank you to those of you who do that already. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.